So, with the sixth hearing having taken place on Thursday, there are now just two hearings left for Yoon's impeachment trial. Will the last two hearings be enough for the court to make a decision? Let's turn to Professor Se-ryun. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Yoon's legal team has applied to have over 30 witnesses, and the court is still reviewing the candidates. The question is, how likely is it that the court will accept Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as a witness?
Well, I think they selected 8 already out of 31. They showed they're resolved to move the proceeding pretty briskly. And I think in that case, the Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, they will apply the same kind of logics. They don't want the duplicate testimonies or something that will not be relevant to the proceedings they want to avoid. So I think that's why they are mulling over whether the Prime Minister Han Duck-soo is absolutely necessary for the remainder of the proceedings. I think I'm leaning against, I'm betting that they'll not call Han Duck-soo, but it's up to them.
Right, it is still considered an option. Now, President Yoon's side has made a request to the court to hold hearings once a week, not twice a week, that the court has been doing. How likely is it that the court will accept that request?
Well, I think the broader issue is whether they can finish it in 180 days. But I think the real deadline is April, when the two justices come off the bench.
Right.
I think the date is April 18th. So they want to move it briskly. But at this point, unless there is an extension, only 2 hearings left. So it's not going to make too much difference. I think their willingness to move proceedings very fast, they will be balancing that with the caution procedurally and giving the president all the chances to put their defense on. So either way, I don't think it makes a big difference unless there's a big move from the president's side to prolong their debates and their defenses beyond the 8th time they put on the hearing.
Well, like I said, there are only 2 hearings left, and it looks like it's possible to have additional hearings on top of the 8 that are scheduled. The question is, will there be an extension to the number of hearings? And if so, how many do you expect there should be?
Well, it is possible. The court's intention is that they will have 8 the hearings, but it's a guideline. They'll hear the motions made by each parties. If that makes sense, they'll grant it. If not, they'll just stick to their hearings. But I think the countervailing point is that they want to finish it as early as possible, but at the same time, they want to be very cautious about the procedure. And especially there's a public perception in the minority, I think, is that the Constitutional Court might be biased. I don't think that's the case, but if that's a public opinion, that's something that the Constitutional Court might be a little bit cautious about.
Well, are you saying the additional hearings work in favor of Yoon's side then?
Well, yes and no. I think that the original plan of the Yoon side was that they'll use the Constitutional Court to make a political argument that there is a very serious matters from the opposition side. So that's the rationale for even putting on the kind of a nuclear option of putting the martial law. But I think if the logic is, if we told the story more over and over again, people might get convinced of that. And besides, I think that the President Yoon might be thinking that his rising approval rating may indicate that it's working. So that's one thing that they might want to do, just telling the same story over and over again with different witnesses. But however, on the other side, people hearing that story, I think a lot of people are getting convinced that he's unfit to be a president, to bring the military to what amounts to be a political question of his unwillingness or incapacity to work with the opposition and work with the opposition-dominated National Assembly. So I think there are both sides to it. But what works against the President Yoon at this point is an insurrection trial or insurrection proceedings will move along. And the evidences and things that come out of that side of the criminal trial might not be very favorable to President Yoon.
Well, let's say everything goes as scheduled with the last hearing taking place next Thursday. Now, some analysts say the trial should be wrapped up with the court's decision as early as later this month or even in early March. Do you also think so, Professor Song?
Yeah, let's look at the history. President Roh Moo-hyun had the impeachment trial. President Park Geun-hye had them. They had 2 months, 3 months trial. And we're just passing the 2 months part. And the 1st of March would be a 3 months. And arguably, this case is simpler than those two other impeachment trials. What happened in the martial law, it was on TV, literally, so people saw what happened, and a lot of testimonies and the evidences has been gathered. So arguably, it's not a very simple case. I think that when justices get together, because this is a separation of power issue, there are constitutional institutions on the executive side and the judiciary side have to decide where the boundaries are. It's not the question there whether we have a question who can not make a well-informed decision. We picked him, so it's not a legal question if we ask it that way. I think the Constitutional Court will specifically focus on whether in the Constitution, in the law, he made a serious error legally. So that question might be something that'll hold him longer days, but I don't think it'll go well over 3 months mark.
Well, if everything goes as scheduled, that will mean a springtime presidential election. Professor Song, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.